Good afternoon and welcome to Unity Church-Unitarian. I'm Reverend Laura Cowton, a minister of congregational care, and I bid you all welcome, virtually and in person, as we gather to celebrate and remember the life of Jennifer Ann Bjorhus. Welcome to this time and place where sorrow and joy, remembrance and hope join to create a living memory of Jenny, whose presence in this life brought spirit and sustenance to so many. Today, we join in that ancient tradition of celebrating a well-lived life in song, in story, that the gift of this occasion, that this coming together and sharing will itself become a source of sustenance for those who live on to remember it. We are mindful that many faith traditions inform our individual journeys here today, and we hold in gratitude the foundations of love and service that these traditions hold in common. In keeping with the Unitarian Universalist tradition practiced here at Unity Church, we light a flaming chalice which transforms hard wax and cold oil into pure light and warmth. It reminds us of our own living, transforming the stuff of this world into the love and activity of our daily lives. As we remember Jenny, may we spark a transformation in ourselves from grief, healing, from memory, wholeness, and from celebration, love. In the presence of life, we say no to death. In the presence of death, we say yes to life. Will you please rise and join me in singing hymn number 101, Abide with Me.
Will you stand again as able and join me in responsive reading, which is in the insert in your order of service. We Remember Them by Ronald B. Gittleson. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. You may be seated.
We know that grief comes to us all. There is no right way to grieve. Each of us finds our own way, and grief often finds us in unexpected ways. We live through the early agony of loss, and over time, we do arrive at some sense of peace. But grief, it doesn't ever really go away. And our lives never really return to what they were before. Instead, time teaches us to weave each loss into our lives. And through the pain, to let the blessings come. We can become stronger and more compassionate when mourning has its way with us. We grow. We grow around and through the pain and rediscover the joy in our lives because of our grief, not despite it. In this way, grief is a blessing. In this way, our joys and our sorrows are woven fine into the tapestry, the very rich tapestry of our lives. We share in these rituals of our lives in community as we do today as reminders that we are not alone in our weaving. We share the stories, the songs, the breaths, and the rhythms of our lives as they are meant to be, in relationship to others. And though we are in the presence of death, it is life that calls us together today. Jenny's life, and the life that we all share with these relationships. So let us grieve. And we will, yet in our grieving, celebrate. Celebrate today the unique and precious life that belonged to Jennifer Ann Bjorhus. Let us now join together in a moment of silence for our own prayer, our reflection and meditation, as we gather together our individual thoughts and feelings and breathe in this sacred space.
Thank you. I'm April. I'm Emily's daughter. This is a poem for Jenny, The Vegetable Garden, a Mosaic. From the green swinging bench at Maddox Park, she climbs a ladder to the sun, 59 years high. When she is close enough to feel the warmth against her skin, heat as bright as her hair, she settles her head against a cumulus cloud and lets her eyes calm, finally, for the first time, vision floating back toward her soft skull. This moment, this climb, has crawled slowly toward her since winter, dark November, and now in a whisper of August, she sleeps atop the sky. There are more ways to die than death, and she has died them all. At night, I count the losses, stars hole-punched into my bedroom ceiling, craters where there once was fluorescence, and I tell her, resting there in the heavens, I will celebrate her up every rung, every year, for the pale lime popsicles in summertime, for the lemonade, always just sweet enough and never overly so, for the grill, for the champagne, for the garden she tended, nurtured, protected, like a little boy with dark hair and dark eyes, and her same spirit, desperately, achingly gentle. When the woodpecker knocks hollow against his oak in her backyard, I feel a tug against the second to last strand of my hair and spin a few extra degrees past 180 in hopes maybe I just missed her. If we did not build a gravestone, we may forget she is still here, a force of light blooming from underneath the dirt. After all, what is grief, really, if we are not witness to it? Thank you.
Jenny and I have something in common. We're born on the same day. And little did I know that when I started my teaching career in Litchfield, August 25th, 1964, a future oboist would be born, and a very fine oboist. As we know, Jenny took everything to heart, and she wanted everything perfect and done well. She made a difference in my life, and she made a difference in all of our lives, and many that are not even here today. The song Hallelujah was requested by the family, and it is my privilege to play that for you today in honor of Jenny.
Each life, each one of our lives, is like a multifaceted jewel which holds and reflects many different stories. Unity Church-Unitarian has a tradition of offering what we call a collage of voices, a collection of memories shared by some who knew Jenny in different ways, which illuminate the many facets of her rich and diverse life. Through these stories, the spirit of Jenny's life will always remain, and we will all get to know her even a little better through other perspectives and other stories. And so we begin with a remembrance from Janet Moore. For the past decade, my colleagues from the Star Tribune, Jennifer, Jackie Crosby, and I would meet every month or so to touch base, share ideas and life stories, and support one another. We called our trio Wine Wine. You get it. About a year before Jen got sick, she began signing off on our phone calls and visits by saying, "Love ya." Being a Jersey girl, this completely messed with my head. We're not emotionally effusive people. This is not our signature salutation in the land of the Sopranos. Jenny believed I was worthy of her love ya. So it won't be easy for this Jersey girl to spread the doctrine of love ya, but I'll try my level best.
From Sarah Anderson. Thank you, Jenny, for turning our small-town childhoods into a thrilling adventure. You wrote and directed our fourth grade satirical rendition of Romeo and Juliet. You led the improv theater we created in your basement before we knew what improv meant. You sparked the heated intellectual discussions over popcorn in your kitchen. You procured the 8-track tape of the Talking Heads that was our soundtrack as we cruised around the Pizza Hut in your dad's red Camaro. In short, you showed me how to dream big. In our senior yearbook, you wrote, "We've got a lot of work left to do in creating a suitable world for us. I give us 2 years." It might have taken you more than 2 years, but you achieved your dreams and you made the world a better place.
From Kathy Strauss. I don't remember the exact dates she was there, but I was at school at SFU studying photojournalism between 1988 and 1991, and we had lots of adventures together. We went out one night with friends to a bar in North Beach, and there was a loud, rowdy group of, I believe, British guys who were traveling with their soccer team. They'd been drinking a lot and came to talk to us. At some point, they were complaining about many things American, and one guy said, "Americans don't even know how to sing songs." And we disagreed, of course, and then Jenny busted out with a fabulous rendition of Janis Joplin's Mercedes-Benz. She knew all the words and sang it from start to finish perfectly, and at the end of the song, the entire bar full of people burst into applause.
From Emily Gernon. Jenny and I met in 1991 at UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism. We were both expats from Minnesota, an odd coincidence in a class of just 12 students. Jen has always been a sort of guardian angel to me. After I became single, she delivered flowers to my door on Valentine's Day with a sweet card. She brought me groceries when I got COVID, and she took care of my house like she took care of my heart, planting a crabapple tree in my front yard, landscaping in front and back, and plotting the overhaul of my bedroom with the help of a Pinterest page she created called Emily's Bedroom. She was talented and successful, but rather than being cocky or self-satisfied, she was infinitely humble and, in fact, constantly questioning herself, like so many accomplished women do. If she were here today, I think Jen would tell all the young people out there, especially the women, believe in yourself, own your amazingness, don't waste your precious time with fear and doubt.
From James Schiffer. Every editor wants a reporter like Jennifer. A brilliant, passionate, and curious person who can tell stories that change the world. At its best, the editor-reporter relationship is one of mutual trust and respect, and I feel like we had that. We worked together on so many remarkable stories, but nothing was more meaningful than a 2022 series about biodiversity called Vanishing North. The project expressed Jennifer's fascination with the natural world, particularly flowers and cats. The first story was about a group of volunteers who rescued a plant called bristleberry from an encroaching road. And as Jen researched the story, I had her promise to take me to see this rare plant. On a cloudy day in August, she took me to a dead-end street in Anoka County. We hiked through a meadow and into a grove of trees, and there, on the ground, were some lowly, thorny plants. A few of them had little berries on them, and we knew we were probably breaking all sorts of laws, but we decided we would each have a bite of bristleberry. They tasted fairly bitter, probably because they weren't quite ripe, but I feel that we shared something elemental that day.
From Tracy Fishman. I was drawn to Jen's warm energy, wit, laugh, smarts, love of family, curiosity, and the use of the written word to build a better world. Our family get-togethers, usually at one of our homes, were always special and memorable, filled with delicious food, especially when they hosted. Laughter, stories, games, and extra dessert. She has left a beautiful mark on so many people and on the world. May Jen's memory and our stories be a blessing.
From Carol Barnett. I remember two things about Jennifer: intense intellectual energy and care. A walk and talk along the Mississippi River with Jen left me breathing better and thinking more clearly. Her intensity about words and ideas invigorated me. I routinely check a thesaurus and a manual of style because of Jennifer's gift of intellectual intensity and her demand for true and clear ideas. And she cared deeply about her garden, her family, and her home. Jen and Ranjit's home seemed to me eternally bright. Warm, healthy food, lovely art, and cozy pillows. The perfect place to stop for tea after a winter walk.
This is from our sister, Lori Johnson. My sister Jenny as a child was a mighty spirit in a petite body topped with red curly hair. Her smile was the greatest. We grew up in a small town in a neighborhood full of kids our ages. Jenny had many close friends and a childhood full of imaginative joy, adventure, and discovery. I can still see her swinging in the backyard swing set, going as high as she could risk without tipping over, jumping on the bed, cruising down the street on her banana seat bike. Jenny and I shared a bedroom in our home in Litchfield. That situation was not always peaceful. Jenny was gifted at late night talking and then snoring. We would fight over the box fan's breeze direction on hot nights, argue about getting into each other's stuff, and who would get into the bathroom first in the morning. I admired her independent spirit, courage to go after what she wanted, her commitment and passion for her work. She had great love for Ranjit, Kai, Parthan, and for all of us. My sister Jenny is no longer physically present on this earth with me, but she is forever in my heart, loved and protected, healthy and happy, smiling in all my memories.
From Sarah Sternberger and Howard Epstein. We've always said that Jen was one of the smartest people we've ever known. But she was so much more than whip smart. Funny, enthusiastic, caring, loving, open to possibility. Jen was loved deeply and will be deeply missed.
From Tifa Foster, I have had the extremely good fortune of living next to Ranjit and Jennifer these past 8.5 years. Jennifer and I would often go for walks down to the river to get coffee or just around the neighborhood. Jennifer and I talked about anything and everything. But if you're one of Jennifer's many friends, family members, or coworkers, Jennifer mainly talked about you. She spoke so highly of you, and she spoke with so much love. You meant so much to her. She thought about her friends, family, and coworkers often and deeply. While I am confident that Jennifer's wonderful soul is in a very good place now, I am equally confident that she is still thinking of you with as much love and gratitude as ever.
From Anthony Hyatt. 40 years ago, we were together in India with the ACM group, and one of my favorite memories from that time is the early morning when you were playing Raga Boop on the Bansuri flute in a cave at Ellora. It was one of the most beautiful things ever. The place echoed with the beautiful sound you were making.
From Hal Davis. At the Pioneer Press, I apologized to Jennifer on behalf of journalism for her treatment in her early days. Then she went on to help report Shielded by the Badge and Denied Justice before taking on the environmental beat. Major accomplishments that deserve the awards they drew. Jennifer did much to improve the world. We are grateful.
From Paula Buck. I will always remember Jen's incredulity when she learned I'd never painted my toenails. She immediately made a date to come over to my house and arrived with a huge smile and a little bucket of pedicure supplies. We spent the next few hours pampering our feet and laughing and sharing stories and giggles and gossip. Friendship with Jen was both lifting and profound. I will hold her in my heart forever.
From Linda Brock Lyons. My dad was incredibly proud of Jenny as a regular reader and subscriber to the Minneapolis Star that got delivered to our doorstep. He would get so excited when an article was in the paper written by Jenny. I would always hear about it. She was like the small town girl that made it big in the big smoke. Jenny was the little sister tag along with Lori and I, playing in the adorable playhouse outside, joining in our dress up or whatever we would get up to in the basement.
From Susanna Patton. During our freshman year at Carleton, Jen spoke to my mom, who had called from California. Susanna is not dressing for Minnesota winter, and it is a problem, she told my mom. She promised that she would teach me to layer sweaters and coats and scarves and boots in just the right way. And once I was properly layered, we headed out to the Arboretum on a snowy, frigid day and pretended we were Siberian peasants. When I was expecting my son and living in Paris, she sent a care package of gifts for babies and new moms. She invited me to come stay in her beautiful home to visit her and meet her family, and we talked for hours. And even though her career was the one to brag about, she was relentless in asking me about me and my life. A couple of weeks after I got home, another care package arrived, this one filled with Twin Cities and Minnesota memorabilia.
This is from me in my words. I remember well that hot August day when Dad came home from the hospital and he told Lori and me that we had a sister. I was 6, Lori was almost 4, and we were pretty excited about the new baby. Those first few months were the only part of Jenny's life that she wasn't in constant motion. As soon as she could walk, she was climbing up the kitchen cabinets, and we'd sometimes find her sitting on top of the refrigerator. She almost got kicked out of preschool because she wouldn't take a nap. Jenny was intense. Mom and Dad had their hands full. I've always been proud of my talented sister. She was an enthusiastic gardener devoted to native plants, and she brought so many out to the family cabin on Lake Sylvia. Every time she came out to the lake, we'd do what we called the crop walk to see how her beloved little natives were doing. She and Ranjit always brought along good wine, great food, and she was truly interested in what everybody else was up to. I loved the time we got to spend together. I was there when she died that Friday, but right before she passed, a woodpecker started pecking loudly at a tree outside. I like to think that that woodpecker represented Jenny's determined spirit. She loved her friends and her family fiercely, and she was relentless in her pursuit of the truth. Her life was too short, but she lived it intensely, and I think that would be her advice to all of us. Seize the day. Make things happen. Drink the good wine now.
There's so many more remembrances that have been shared of Jenny. I will close now with some final words from Jenny's friend, Susanna Patton, who captures, I think, the essence of what we have heard in this beautiful collage of voices. She writes, Jenny is and always will be an inspiration in the way she's lived her life, in the poems and newspaper stories she's reported and written with such flair and brilliance, in her adventurous spirit, combined with deep love and loyalty for her family and where she came from, and in the way she always had time to share a walk or a cup of coffee and to ask in the most generous way, how are you?
This past April, on the slightly overcast afternoon of Saturday the 27th, Jennifer, Ranjit, and extended family and friends gathered right here in this sanctuary alongside the larger church congregation to hear Kai deliver his credo, his statement of faith as part of his coming of age. Kai began his credo with these words: "When I was 12, maybe 13, my mom would make me read a newspaper article out loud every morning before school for months. She would do this because she wanted me to get better at speaking out loud. And I think it helped a lot, even though I really hated reading the newspaper out loud at the time." Reading aloud to strengthen speech and develop language skills, of learning to use the voice to convey an idea, a sentence structure, plot, and information with smoother delivery and greater confidence. And many of us have our favorites, chosen carefully from the wide-ranging literature of read-alouds, from Where the Wild Things Are, or Fox in Socks, to A Wrinkle in Time, or The Tale of Two Cities, or Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. But of course, it comes as no surprise to anyone who knew Jenny that she would choose the newspaper for Kai to read aloud. For Jennifer understood clearly and deeply that journalism is the literature of democracy and of our life together. The news of the day, as it reaches the newspaper office, is an incredible medley of fact, propaganda, rumor, suspicion, clues, hopes, and fears, wrote the acclaimed journalist Walter Lippmann. And the task of selecting and ordering the news is one of the truly sacred and priestly offices in a democracy. He goes on, "For the newspaper is, in all literalness, the Bible of democracy, the book out of which a people determine their conduct. It is the only serious book most people read. It is the only book they read every day. The power to determine each day what shall seem important and what shall be neglected is a power unlike any that has been exercised since the Pope lost his hold on the secular mind." Even as a child, as we heard often late into the night, as her sisters will tell us, Jennifer was interrogating the world, ever curious and dogged in her dream and search for a much better world. As we were told in the senior yearbook of a childhood friend, Jennifer wrote this: "We've got a lot of work left to do in creating a suitable world for us. I give us 2 years." That moral obligation to creating a more suitable world took her to Berkeley and a graduate degree in journalism, and then work as a newspaper reporter at the Seattle Times, the Oregonian, and the San Jose Mercury News. Journalism also took her to many countries in Nicaragua, Mexico, Albania, and India. But it was in 2002, Jennifer returned to Minnesota to join the Pioneer Press for 6 years before joining the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. During those nearly 16 years at the Star-Tribune, it was her investigative journalism which would prove to be particularly impactful, earning her and her colleagues recognition as Pulitzer Prize finalists in the 2018 for their series, Denied Justice, but much more importantly, leading to significant changes in the investigation and prosecution of rape cases. That same year, she was named Journalist of the Year by the Minnesota chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists. In 2021, she was part of the team that won the Pulitzer for their comprehensive reporting on the murder of George Floyd. In her later years, Jennifer was most passionate about her work as an environmental reporter for the Star Tribune, covering a wide range of topics including climate justice, conservation, and the very real human impact on local ecosystem, including one report entitled, "On a Stretch of Gravel Road, Dodge County Families Ravaged by Cancer Question Nitrate." Reporting which was significant, a contribution to the many Minnesotans working to protect drinking water. But as we heard, it was the 2022 series entitled Vanishing North, a series focused on biodiversity and the extinction of Minnesota's most vulnerable animals and plants, which perhaps captured what Jennifer loved best about environmental reporting. She loved getting out into the Minnesota landscape, tenacious to get to the very source of her reporting, driving out into northern Minnesota 6 times in search of the native, elusive lynx, trekking through the fields of Anoka County, as we heard with her longtime editor, James Schiffer, in search of that bristleberry, and actually finding it and getting to savor that bitter taste of the berry. For however bitter the truth or story, Jennifer's passion was to go and find the story, to dig up the facts and follow the trail wherever it may lead, for the sake of the community she knew she was serving, for the sake of creating a more suitable world in the 2 years, or however limited the time she and we are given. Perhaps at the heart of her relentless passion for journalism was a tenacity, a doggedness, a tireless commitment to get at the sources of our lives. Perhaps at the heart of Jennifer's zipping into the newsroom, coffee in hand, and immediately grabbing her phone and reporting nonstop, as one of her colleagues described it. Perhaps at the heart of her dedication was Jennifer's singular focus in questioning her sources fearlessly until we could all finally know the truth. However elusive like the lynx or bitter like the bristleberry, a truth that could heal us and restore us and set us free. Any good investigative journalist knows that what matters absolutely is how journalists find sources and how they cultivate and work with their sources, how they listen and carefully handle the information coming from their sources. It's the kind of basic shoe leather reporting. You know, hunting down sources and documents and confirming authenticity. Literally on foot, walking from office to office, source to source, conducting interviews face to face, digging through courthouse records, traveling to the site, and seeing the disaster and damage for oneself, noting all the important details in the very setting where the story took place, present and intimate with the source in a way that could persuade people to trust her with the most sacred and intimate stories of their lives. And Jennifer was just so thorough, so good with her sources, knowing that the power of any story lies with its sources. Without sources, there is no journalism. Imagine, without Deep Throat, Woodward and Bernstein wouldn't have had the critical pieces of information to expose and unravel Watergate. Without the three wise men who had news of something important happening in Bethlehem, Western history might have taken a very different course. Sources are the essential condition and what is absolutely necessary for journalism. Sources are the gateways to facts, to background and context. Sources, the raw material that undergirds the work of journalism. The number of sources is proportional to the strength of an investigation, with numerous and diverse sources making an investigation more balanced, more objective. And as an exceptional journalist, Jennifer knew how to work her sources, coordinating one with another, all toward the greater story waiting to be told, in service to making a better world. But in the working with sources, I want you to know that there is something powerful and profound which begins to happen to the journalist. The source's reality starts to become part of the journalist's reality. The source's truth starts to become an integral part of the journalist's truth. Yes, of course, there are methods of verification, double sourcing, fact-checking, and more, but there is no denying that the news the journalist is reporting is someone else's lived reality. Their life, their struggles, their truth, their hopes, and their dreams. You see, there is a certain sort of vicariousness embedded in the practice of journalism. Under normal circumstances, the news does not happen to the journalist, but to others who are the sources of the story. If there were no sources, there would be no journalism. As a result, the work of the journalist is one that is derivative, closely attending to what may have been overlooked or forgotten or hidden and even buried, putting their skill and talent and curiosity to work on behalf of the larger community by drawing attention and giving voice to sources whose lives and dreams and sufferings and injustices must be heard if we are to create a more suitable world for all of us. This practiced attentiveness to her sources is what stands out in what one of her neighbors just said about Jennifer. Jennifer always had time to share a walk or a cup of coffee and to ask in the most generous way how I was doing. We would often go for walks down to the river to get coffee or just around the neighborhood. But on these walks, Jennifer and I talked about anything and everything. But Jennifer mainly talked about you. She was most often trying to figure out the best thing she could do for you. We talked about food to bring or cook for dinners with you. Plans and gifts you might like. Things you might want to do. The best thing for her to say to you, or places you may want to go. She spoke so highly of you, and she spoke with so much love. You meant so much to her. more than a profession. Journalism was a sacred calling for Jennifer, precisely because she moved through this world as someone who knew that the 1,000,001 things that she touched were sacred sources. Each person and lynx and bristleberry, a sacred source, each with a story and news to share. Their reality became Jennifer's reality. Their most important truths became Jennifer's truth. To talk of sources in this manner is to already expand to that larger sacred meaning of source. Source from where life originates, source from which life is provided and sustained, source that is the sacred place and people from which we come, source that is the cause and purpose of everything we do, source where everything begins and to which we all return, a source to which we are connected in far greater ways than we can know now. You see, to talk of source in this manner is to finally turn to the foundational bedrock sources of Jennifer's own life. People whose reality and stories, people whose hopes and dreams were not vicariously experienced, but directly, actually, intimately, completely experienced. Sources whose struggles and fears, sources whose triumphs and joys made both the early morning news and the evening news every single day of Jennifer's life. These sources who offer Jennifer the stories that matter the most to her, sources who were her colleagues, neighbors, lifelong and dearest of friends, sources who were her larger extended family, sources who were her nephews, her mother, Marjorie, her sisters, Carrie and Lori, sources who were her absolutely cherished children, Parthen and Kai, and the source of an unfailing care and strength who was her beloved Ranjit. Sacred sources who gathered around 3 weeks ago, Friday. Sources who encircled and held Jennifer as she took her very final breaths. And just as Jennifer did with Kai in asking him to read aloud the news, these sources encircling Jennifer, speaking aloud the most sacred news that's ever fit to print, that Jennifer was loved, that we were so grateful for her living and loving so deeply, that we will all miss her terribly, and that we bless her on her way, and that the victories of her character and spirit, which met life with such warmth and generosity and strength of love, will remain with us forever as an ever-present source in our own unfolding lives. News fit to read aloud, fit to remind each other, fit for morning news and evening news, fit to ever hold close as a source of love and brilliance and courage and undying love. Amen.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth. Holy One, Great Spirit of life's design, we are gathered today humbled by the fine weaving of joy and woe, with hearts filled with both grief and gratitude for the remarkable life of Jennifer Ann Bjorhus. This we know. All life is a gift. Jennifer's life was a gift. She will be remembered for her generosity, compassion, inquisitive mind, for her love of truth, of life and adventure that inspired that love in others. In the days ahead, in honor and in gratitude of Jenny's life and for the time left in our own lives, may we bring joy and laughter into our day. May we be kind and generous and sincere and inquisitive and supportive of others. May we walk a lot with others. May we embrace the outdoors and create beautiful, natural gardens. May we make time for family, appreciate music, share good things, stories, food, wine, laughter. May we pause in the midst of any day and breathe in the gift that is your own life. And in so doing, give thanks for the living memory of Jennifer Bjorhus as we continue to spread the joy that will become our shared legacy. All of this with love and gratitude, we pray. Amen. Jenny, may the universe receive you and hold you in the greater oneness of everything. May you be whole and at peace. May you go knowing that you are well remembered and deeply loved. We extinguish this flame, and as we do, we know that the flame of life still burns within each one of us, and we know that the light of Jenny's life still shines within our hearts. In the spirit of love we have gathered. In the spirit of love we depart. May we go in peace.